What's up, guys? It's Panic Knife here with theawfulgamer.com, and today I'm going to be talking about how to kick ass as a sorc healer in Star Wars The Old Republic. This is my 4th level 50 character, which I understand is quite pathetic considering how many hours I put into this game, but I decided that I wanted to have a real healer. I have a merc who I dabbled a little bit with healing, but I didn't really, like it that much. It's very difficult to do. You burn out on heat very quickly, and there's really nothing you can do in the long term to keep some people up, especially with your lack of an AoE heal. So I decided to level a sorc. Now, sorc is probably the most fun and, in a way, the easiest healer class to use in Star Wars The Old Republic. So this is something that if you have ever had an interest in healing, I would definitely recommend you level up a sorc, especially because it's very survivable, it's very versatile in PvP, and you can actually, you can still DPS in heal spec in this character, so it's a lot of fun. Obviously, my character is a girl. I always have thought that it's a little bit weird for guys to be playing girl characters, but I always name my characters after either cats or breakfast products, and this cat was a girl, so I decided to make a girl character. So what better way to do it than make my character look like a huge whore? So that explains the dress. Anyway, my advice on how to become a great sorc healer. I wouldn't call myself a great sorc healer just because of the fact that I mostly DPS, but I've done several operations so far. I've done hard mode Terror from Beyond on this character, and it's not that hard to do, especially if you just keep your eyes open and stay alert. So without further ado, here is how I did it. Now, with leveling and with doing solo classes, I would first recommend with leveling, you do a lot of it as a healer. And I would also recommend you do a lot of it PvPing. At PvP, you end up getting a lot of MVP votes, especially if you're just doing basic healing. Once you get Innervate, it's the easiest thing ever. I mean, all you have to do is go through your rotation, make sure you're bubbling everybody as much as possible, and you can throw in some DPS in there every once in a while. You can use Affliction, Crushing Darkness, Force Lightning, and Shock, and those 4 abilities really end up kicking pretty much everybody's ass during those those PvP encounters. So definitely go and level up through PvP. Make sure you're picking up your daily quests and all that stuff, and you'll end up getting quite a few Warzone commendations that you'll end up turning into gear later on once you hit 50. I would recommend, as long as you get to level 33, that's you're pretty much golden. I think it's 33 when you get Force Storm, and Force Storm makes it so you pretty much destroy everyone in your class quests. There's no real challenge anymore in finishing those up. The only challenge is if you get a bunch of high level mobs or something like that. You might have to CC them. Big deal. You've got Whirlwind, which is a 60-second CC. It's just like the Merc CC, which is pretty awesome. And you separate them, make sure everybody stays up, and you're pretty much all good. I use Andronicus as my companion just because I hate waiting for like Chem or one of your tank companions to kill things. It's just easier to keep yourself alive and use your DPS companions. I would highly recommend gearing them out a little bit once you hit 50. It's simple. Just use your Teeny's gear on Andronicus, or Teeny's combinations or whatever. Or if you actually go through Section X and finish the missions, get HK51. He does better DPS than Andronicus, unless you have Andronicus like really geared out. So by all means, use HK. It's a lot of fun too. Now, moving on, my skill tree, I use a pretty standard skill tree. It's 32-7-2, which 32 points into the Corruption, which is the healing spec, 7 into Lightning, and 2 into Madness. Now, the ones that are sort of the ones that are up for discussion, I do put 1 point in Empty Body on the Corruption side. That just, any kind of percent bonus you get to self-healing is that it just helps you keep alive in the long run. I put 3 points in Electric Induction on the Lightning side, which reduces force cost, pretty self-explanatory. 2 in Reserves, which increases your total force. Now, you could argue that you never really have force issues if you do your combinations right, but it's still not, a bad thing to have, especially if you want to throw in some DPS in there when you're in boss fights and that sort of thing. And I put 2 points in the lightning barrier, which increases the the durability of your static barrier, and then 2 points on the madness side in Will of the Sith to increase your willpower. I think everything's pretty self-explanatory there. It's not a very controversial skill tree, so just use that. Now I'm actually being attacked by one of my cats right now, so if you hear some random banging against the mic, that's what it is. Say hi to my cat Cupcake. Anyway, now with gear, I would highly recommend that if this is your second character, you're one of your alts, this is so easy to gear up a character and quickly. Use the legacy gear. Just go ahead and buy it over in the I believe it is in Droman Costs. You can buy legacy gear. I think it costs like 75, between 50 to 275 K for each piece, which isn't cheap necessarily, but you'll use it like crazy if you end up building alts. So buy some legacy gear, and you're going to end up swapping out mods. Now, when you're looking at your stats and stuff like that, power surge is the priority on this. Don't worry about a lot of alacrity. Accuracy is actually completely useless because you're not going to be doing any melee damage unless you're doing it wrong. A little bit of crit is okay. I would recommend maybe getting enough crit to get 30% buffed, or at least 30% buffed. Maybe 35 would be the max I'd ever want. You don't ever want to like soft cap crit on a sorc, just because most of the procs that you're going to have end up increasing your crit anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I have alacrity on 2 of my pieces actually, because of the fact that I picked up 2 pieces of gear in raids, so that's not something I would really put a lot into. You're gonna have some on your earpiece and on your implants, so don't worry about it. Just make sure that you really max out on power surge. And what I would do is gear up using black hole and PvP. Like the black hole comms that you get, which you get pretty much for free. I mean, just doing a little bit of grinding your day, your daily missions, your weekly hard mode things, that sort of thing. You'll end up getting black hole comms for that. And obviously the daily areas each have a weekly quest that give black hole comms. Now, what I would recommend doing is buying the Strikers Mark 1 boots, 7 of them if you can. That's 50 comms each for 350 total. Then buy the campaign armorings off the same vendor. They made it so easy to get it to 61 level, which is all you really need to do hard mode Terra from Beyond. If you buy 4 campaign armorings, which that should get you the 4 set bonus, that's 156 additional comms. So you're going to end up spending a little bit, and it's going to take a little while. You're going to need about 406, I think, is the total number of black hole comms you'll need to really get geared out here. And that after that, I would go ahead and get the orange belt and bracers, and then try to get these things crafted from that point on. It's really easy at this point because so many people are crafting items. All you'll need is the Aptitude 27 mod, which gives you power and willpower. That costs 4 stabilizers, 4 Mandalorian iron, 6 Durasteel, 6 Zal alloy. And Resolve 27 armorings, which are 2 matrix cubes, 6 stabilizers, and 8 Mandalorian iron. I would recommend putting if you can get 3 armorings, put them in your belt, bracers, and in your offhand. I could also recommend that you would get a hilt crafted, which is just about the same thing except with artifice, mats, and that sort of thing. Put that in your main hand. The mods, I would put just get 2 of those, put them in your belt and bracers, then you're pretty much good to go. I would also recommend augmenting all your gear. I mean, if there's no reason not to do it, and it gets you a lot more of main stat. I just used all resolve armorings, or rather resolve augments. I haven't fully augmented my gear yet. That's mostly just laziness. I've been trying to grind it out and not really buy it through the GTN, so just get the purple, the best augments. I think it gives you 12 endurance and 18 willpower. So go ahead and do that. I would recommend using Warrior Hero Boundless Ages relics, which those give you basically a boost. I think 118 power, which I mean you can't go wrong with that. Obviously, I have the black hole implants and a hazmat earpiece. I had the hazmat earpiece crafted for me, just because the black hole earpiece kind of sucks. It's got the low willpower and high endurance, which you don't really need. So if you can do that, get it crafted. On Prophecy of the 5, there's a few people who craft it. The hazmat one that has crit surge. It's 6 stabilizers, 2 matrix cubes, 10 iron, and then the other mats. Alright, so let's get into the rotation. This is going to be a long video, I guess. The rotation's pretty simple for a sorc healer. Static barrier, Resurgence for to proc force spending. Innervate, which force spending gives that an additional chance to crit. If it does crit, you get a proc for Force Surge, and that gives you a free consumption. Basically, you'll lose a little bit of HP, but you won't lose Force Regeneration, which is pretty awesome. Dark Infusion if you need to top anybody off. Dark Heal if you're in a bind. And then the other combination you really need to know is Resurgence to proc Force Spending, and then use Revivification. That's your AoE heal, and it's completely overpowered. It's really the best thing about a Sorc class is the fact that they have the best AoEs in the game for both healing and for DPS. I love Force Storm and I love Revivification. It's actually really cool in PvP if you use it. It gets a lot of it has a lot of use in Ancient Hypergates and in any of the kind of objective-based games. Hutball kind of sucks, but you know, that's okay. I would definitely use the Sorc bubble class, the stun bubble class, that is, if you end up healing in a Hutball match, that sort of thing. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover is keybinds. I just go down the number keys. It makes it really easy for me. 1 is Static Barrier, 2 is Resurgence, 3 is Innervate, and 4 is Dark Infusion. Now, the other things that I like to use Control keys, and I like to keep them near my home keys. So, Control X is my consumption. Control Z is I use for Cloud Mind, which is your aggro dump. It doesn't really work that well, but I think it works alright, I guess, but people don't really understand why it doesn't work for them. If nothing is if your tank isn't attacking the mobs, and you start to draw aggro on them, you might hit Cloud Mind and it doesn't do anything, and you're like, oh my god, my Cloud Mind doesn't work. That's because nobody has put any threat on it, and you have less threat, but still have threat from healing. So, tell your tank to do his job. Control S I have for Unnatural Preservation, which is the self-heal. Now, if you're using Consumption a lot, you're going to not ever run out of force, but you will end up, kind of bringing your health down a little bit. The trick there is every 30 seconds you can use your own self-heal, which is Beast. If it crits, it gets over like 8k for me. So, I mean, it's really easy to keep your force up. It's really easy to use your self-heal. Just use it. It's not that big of a deal. Control A I use for Dark Heal just because I don't use it that often. Other than that, I have a Logitech mouse that has a mouse button on it. I used one of my mouse buttons for Purge. It's not that big of a deal. You can add it to a different keybind if you don't have a mouse that has a button on it, but that's how I do it. Now, Control D for me is Extricate, which is the most fun skill in the game. I don't think I show it in this video, but that's an awesome skill. It pulls basically the target of it's an ally out of the combat situation. It lowers their threat, and so don't do it on the tank. But it also can let you kill your teammates while you're raiding and stuff like that, so it's pretty awesome. I actually don't have it set in this video, but C I use for Revivification now, and Q for targeting closest the ally. That is a key one. If you don't have the Q set up for target closest ally, or have a closest ally target, you're gonna have a lot of tough time with clicking on health bars and stuff like that. I would definitely recommend setting up a closest ally keybind. Now, if you're doing like a hard mode, F1 and F4, F1 through F4 is the targeting specific allies, but that gets kind of tough in an operation, especially 16-man. Make sure that you're just, you're looking at the health bars of the people in your group, the people you need to be healing. And I mean, it's something that we hate saying in an MMO, but just click. I mean, if you see somebody who isn't in your group that's running low on health, but it is within your purview, don't just try to run over to them and click Q or something like that. I would just click them and start to heal them up. The trouble is, though, when you're clicking and doing things like that with the health bars, you can get tunnel vision and stand in mechanics and get your ass killed. So don't tunnel vision the health bars. It's not that hard to do. It's actually quite easy to do, especially with this class. You only have one real channel ability, and you have a bunch of instant casts and stuff like that. So just make sure you're not tunnel visioning, make sure you're keeping on the move, and it's pretty much easy. Just use Q a lot. That's the key. For example, if you're fighting Firebrand and Stormcaller, you're on the same tank with your same 4 people, it's so easy just to turn to a guy, click Q, target closest ally, and then you're healing him. So that's pretty much it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys got a little bit of use out of it. It's kind of one of the more fun classes I've been able to play, especially because I'm mostly DPS. So getting away from that and healing is something that I really like to do. Anyway, with theawfulgamer.com. This is your boy Panic Knife. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a good night.